Perfect. Let me share my screen. Perfect. I think that did it. Uh, Perfect. Yeah, so really good session we have today. So I think in general, this conference is really good at a lot of technical SEO and really getting a lot of really smart people to share their best practices and almost like SEO secrets. This session is going to be a little different, and through this session, I'm going to go through a lot of general information and general trends, which are, I think, equally as important to SEO to see where the consumer mindsets are, because at the end of the day, even it gets hard sometimes to see a big picture when you're down in the weeds doing the technical SEO stuff. But ultimately, the goal for most businesses is to get more consumers, right? To get more sales, more leads. And there's been a big shift in consumer trends, so it's really important to understand how the consumer is behaving and what the consumers are looking for, and at the same time, the kind of SEO that you're writing, the content you're creating, has I think has to adapt as well, because the search behaviors have changed. So I'm going to go through a lot of really good data today that should hopefully get people thinking more about the big picture stuff, about the trends, overall trends in consumer behavior, and some of the ways you should really be pivoting your content and really your marketing. Um, Next slide. Let's see. There we go. Won't spend too long on this, but really quick about myself, just so people who are watching know where I'm coming from. So, as you said, my name is Alex Melen. I'm currently the co-founder of Smart Sites, a company I started with my brother almost exactly a decade ago. We're one of the leading digital agencies in almost every single category. We have over 170 employees now, and six offices around the world. Inc. 5000, I think, four times in a row now. It's going to be five coming up. And we primarily work with small businesses, helping them succeed online. So through those experiences and through everything we do as a company, I get a lot of exposure to all the trends and all the data that I'll be sharing today. We also have a very good relationship with Google, amongst other companies, and we get a lot of really good data and insights from them that I'll be sharing with everyone today. Um, before we jump in, these days, it doesn't seem like that long, but in the last 12 months, I like to preface all of my speaking sessions really talking about the general worldwide COVID trends, since that's what dominates really everything we do these days. So this is where we add our ad with new cases per day. It's actually looking a lot better than it did even. I think the last speech I did was mid-January. We were up here, right? The chart looked a lot different. Everything was going up. Or even I did one in December, when I remember November, December, when so this lighter pink line is Europe. Europe was really spiking. So compared to a lot of previous months and quarters, it is starting to look better. But again, we're not fully out of the woods yet. We're still at, I mean, as a chart, it looks better, right? But if you look in zero in on the actual data, so the US is right now at about 70,000 new cases per day. So it's still a very staggering number. And the European Union is still above that. And then you see all the other countries here, but everything's going in a much better direction. So I think we're towards the final quarter, final stretch of the major impact from COVID. But as you'll see going through this deck, I think a lot of the impacts from COVID are going to be very long lasting. I'm in the U.S. and our business is primarily in the U.S. So a lot of the topics and content and data I'll be talking about will be from the U.S. So I apologize in advance for people that are outside of the U.S. But I think it's still going to be all very relevant. I think internationally, as we could see from this chart, other countries are pretty much in the same space. This is how we are in the US. And by the way, this data, both this chart, you could see my source on the bottom left, and the next chart I updated as of today. So this is all really recent data, and you can actually go to these pages and see this data updated at any point if you want to spot check where we are later on. later on in the year. This is how we're looking in the U.S. on a state by state basis. So on the left, it says it shows which states are allowing businesses to be open. So everything in the grayish bluish is mostly open. So I'm right here in the New Jersey, New York City area. So we're finally starting to see things more open. Although personally, my office is still closed. Right, all of our employees are still working from home. For geez, it's almost approaching a year. So even though this show's mostly open, obviously there's still a lot of local implications. But also keep in mind the West Coast is still in a really bad place in the U.S. So it says it's mixed. California still has a lot of curfews. A lot of businesses are still not allowed to be open. So there's still a lot of COVID-based restrictions are going on, even though we're pacing in a better direction. And this side is masks. Almost everyone now is requiring masks. I think looking at this picture, it looks like it's almost half mask, half no mask. But if you weigh it with the populations, it's actually 85% of the populations are required to wear masks at any indoor gathering, any store, any location. That's big because if COVID wasn't top of mind enough, right? Everyone's gonna have it top of mind, having going into these businesses and going out and doing anything really outside of their house and having put on a mask. So we're moving in the right direction, but obviously we still have some ways to go before we return to pre-COVID kind of atmosphere, and we might not for a very long time. For those that don't already know, 2020 was a year unlike any other. We had to accept change, adapt, and pivot to a new normal. Everyone had to do this on every level that you could think of, right? On a personal level, people have a new dynamic now, staying at home. Your kids are with you at home because schools are closed, businesses are closed. You have to work from home while watching your kids. Really, I could pretty confidently say that I think 99% of the population worldwide had a big change in their life in 2020 and really had to pivot and adapt. And if I had to pick one theme of these slides and presentation, it would be the pivoting and adapting and really being agile to change to the new normal. Now I'll jump in through all the data so we could kind of frame where the consumer is and where we all are with this whole COVID situation and how it's affecting behaviors. So about 60% of US consumers are shopping as much or more than they were before the pandemic. That's pretty interesting. A lot of people, especially in the beginning, panicked, like a lot of businesses, because they assumed, and consumer spending did take a dip, but a lot of consumers actually continue to spend, and some are spending more and some are spending much more. So even though we're in a kind of pandemic, everyone's at home, consumer spending behavior, at least in the U.S., hasn't really changed, and if anything, increased. And that's actually for those that follow the U.S. stock market, that's been driving a lot of the old-time records in stocks, because the consumers are continuing to shop even this in this new environment. However, traditional behaviors are out the window. So that's why it becomes very important for businesses to pivot. Those that completely relied on traditional purchases, had no online presence, obviously suffered the most. Those that were not able to change their business practices and adapt were hurt the most. You could even think about it in terms of restaurants, right? Restaurants were perhaps the most hardest hit, especially in the US, maybe after the travel industry. There were kind of two avenues to go for a restaurant, and one where the businesses did not succeed and ones that they're still doing okay. The ones that did not succeed are the ones that did not pivot, right? They said we'll continue doing what we're doing. We'll do our best. We'll have outdoor dining, but we're not doing anything else. Those that really pivoted, created an online presence, right? Promoted their business online, started doing deliveries, events outside of the physical restaurant, are the ones that actually are doing okay. Granted, it's a very struggling industry, and I'm careful saying anyone's doing really good, because it is still a big struggle, but you just have to be aware that traditional behaviors have really changed. And just looking at the data I have here, this is people searching do-it-yourself ideas. Look at the spike at 1 a.m. Now people are searching do-it-yourself ideas. This is when the pandemic just started, by the way. And of course, for those in the U.S., everyone's aware with the crazy demand around toilet paper, where literally people were going to Costco to supermarkets selling out toilet paper was like sold out for months in the U.S. That was like the big supply shortage in the U.S. from the pandemic, and this is search volume on Google for toilet paper from February to March. It literally went up not thousands of percents, but hundreds of thousands of percent. So the takeaway here is that there's a lot of still volatility and things are moving very, very quick. I'll go through a couple of key categories. So this is in general, in the midst of the crisis, consumer behavior has shifted. So this is general trends in consumer behavior, but I'll go through some of the highlight categories, but nothing that people aren't already aware of, right? Fitness became big. All the gyms around the US closed. No one could go to the gym. Setting up a home gym, buying equipment for your home to exercise was big. Toys and games became big as people are now sitting at home and not going out as much. Food and groceries, online delivery of groceries, computer equipment, obviously all that went up. Just some quick takeaways here this is for the SEO folks. If you're looking for SEO ideas of content to go into, or industries or categories that are really benefiting from COVID, this is a quick highlight. So this is fitness. This is the increase in search volume for Americans sitting at home. And like I said, with gyms closed, everyone was really looking for equipment to buy at home. And this trend has still continued. Home exercise equipment is still a very hot category, and I think will continue to be so. I think about 3/4 of the US allows gyms to be open in some form now, but it'll be a very long time until everyone feels comfortable to go back to one. And especially with people working at home, I think it creates a good opportunity for this industry. So this is toys and games, and this is an interesting one. Toys and games went up across the board, obviously, as people are sitting at home more and spending time with their family more. Obviously, party games and board games went up a lot, again, from people just being at home, not being able to go out. But what's interesting is look at the search trends based on day of week. You see the spike every single Saturday when people are sitting at home and not being able to go out. They're actually Googling and searching for party games and board games and things to do as a family. Food was very big and continues to be big. Americans are always very big in stockpiling food, much more so than the rest of the world. That trend increased a lot more so with COVID, especially with empty supermarkets for a couple of weeks, couple of months, toilet paper outages. So stockpiling has become a lot bigger, and people are searching for that stuff much more than they have before. Computer accessories of any kind took a big jump as people were buying computers and computer equipment to work from home. So that was a big one. That was for both consumers themselves, right? For your job, you now have to work from home, so you have to, even if your work gives you a laptop, you might have to get a monitor for it, a different keyboard, a different mouse. But at the same time, almost all schools went virtual, and I think still half of the US schools are virtual in some way. So that just created a big demand for computers, computer accessories, and that trend has also still continued into February of this year. This is again the toilet paper example. So household supplies have taken a big jump and continue to do so. There's still a lot of stockpiling going up, and people are still very scared that they're going to run out of toilet paper or Bounty or something like that. So that's still a trend that's continued. All right, I'll take a quick breather, and then we're gonna jump into now that we went through actually the trends and data of what's going on. In the next 30 minutes or so, I'm gonna jump into talking about the actual consumer decision-making process and how that's changed. So what we covered in the last couple of slides has been search activity and search behavior. Here we're gonna go through the consumer decision-making process. So for this, for the next, I think the remainder of the slides, the data is based on English language searches. So it's coming from the US, UK, and India. But this will help paint a picture of what the consumers are searching for and what their behaviors are pointing to. So as everyone can imagine, searches with anything safe or safe to has gone up a huge amount. This data is through the summer, but all the trends actually have continued, and it's actually, if anything, in November and December it actually spiked again even higher. So what I mean by this is people searching: is it safe to fly? Is it safe to travel? Is it safe to go for a walk? Right? Is it safe to go to a playground? Is it safe to swim? And my daughters go swim class. I personally went on and searched, is it safe for them with COVID to actually go to swim class, right? And swim in an environment with other people. So this has been the big trend since COVID started and continues to be so. I think consumers look for clarity of what activities are safe to do, and they look for reassurance of what activities are safe to do. So as a business, obviously you want to highlight what's safe and what's not. For example, the swimming school my kids go to, they have a big poster that explains how chlorine kills most of the COVID, and it's all these studies were done, and it's actually fairly safe to do. Obviously, everything has a risk profile, but the poster is meant to reassure that it's one of the safer activities. So this behavior will continue. So from the SEO mindset, you really, as you're writing content, you want to be cognizant of this is what people are searching for, especially if you're a business that falls into an activity category, again, a swim school or something like that. If I had a swim school, right, on the website, I would put a lot of material about what's safe and not safe to do and why it's safe to be in the swim school. So I think this will continue to be a dominant search behavior the rest of this year at the very least, and probably into 2022. What else is new? So hobbies are new. So all of these things kind of make sense when you think about, but I'm here to point them out to make sure you're actually thinking about them. So hobbies became very big across every country, continent, right? People are spending much more time at home, and they have more time out of the office. They're not commuting as much. So it's actually, these are all the increases, UK, India, and the US, for people searching how to learn a language, how to learn music, how to learn coding, how to learn art, how to learn stocks, how to learn knitting, driving, strategy games, and the list continues. This trend has also continued and actually increased into 2021, and I believe will continue to increase. And again, for those that do SEO, that's the mindset you should have. If your business could benefit from any of these kind of content pages, or it's relevant, that's what you should be creating, because that's what the consumers are searching for. And of course, the other big thing is globally, there's 50% increase in daily views of videos with beginner. So that just means a lot of people are getting introduced to new hobbies and new things that have not done it or been introduced to it before. So it's a really good opportunity for businesses and even those who do SEO to capture new consumers that you wouldn't have otherwise. People that in the past were too busy with other things to be searching for new hobbies, or searching for how do I do this, or how do I learn a new language. So this is more a little bit more SMB focused than for SEO, but still worth it to keep in mind that throughout all of this, there's been a lot of brands that have not only survived but actually benefited and have done very well. Those that have been cognizant of these consumer trends and really pivoted to capture them. So for example, Jeep focused on all their marketing and reassuring the consumers that everything's in place to help them finance a car. They reduced barriers to financing a car. They've created payment plans where there's no money due at all for the first couple months, or you could give the car back if you're not satisfied with it, or if your work situation changes. So there's definitely, from an SMB business owner perspective, there's definitely a lot of ways to pivot your business to be more open towards how consumers are interacting right now. Cool. So I'm going really fast because there's a lot of really good content here. I'll keep going. I'll keep going at this pace, but I'll try to make sure that we don't miss anything important. So what's the big opportunity? Again, this is more for business owners, but I think important for SEO folks to keep in mind as well. The overall opportunity is to empower consumers to feel in control and good about the decision and progress they're making this year. So these are kind of how do you accomplish that? Number one is you relieve anxiety, be a reliable source that consumers can depend on. You support and uplift, and you give control. So this can apply to every single business, and really, as a business operator, should be top of mind at how you change your business operations to interact with consumers. So, for example, if you're a car dealership, you want to do your best to relieve anxiety to make sure that anyone coming to a dealership itself really feels safe and comfortable doing so, feels safe in that space. You really want to relieve any kind of reservations people have about it. You don't want to, right? You don't want people coming to a dealership and all of your employees are not wearing masks and all like congregating together, right? You really want to create an environment that relieves anxiety, because in today's world with COVID, people are very worried, right? Especially as we're almost a year into it. I'd imagine a lot of people know someone who's gotten really sick or passed away from it, and although comfort levels are different for everyone, you really want to try to make it as a comfortable experience as you can. And then the big thing is the subheadings give up control, but I would frame this more as be flexible, right? Again, if we think about the car dealership example, traditionally people in the US at least, if you wanted to purchase a car, you might do some research online, especially in the last couple of years. But after that, you would go into a car dealership, right? And the entire process would happen there. That would be your process to learn about the car, to test drive the car, to talk to a representative about leasing, financing, to actually put the deal together, put the deposit down, and drive off in your car. So that was the experience maybe 18 months ago, or even 12 months ago. In February in the US last year, we were still okay. I remember I did a speech in Austin, Texas, mid-February, and then I did one in Utah end of February. So a year ago, we were still okay. I think March is when it all went downhill. So that the car dealership, that was the experience. Today, that's obviously a little different. Everyone has different comfort levels. Some people are still okay with that experience. They're still okay coming in and doing everything in person at the car dealership. But some people aren't. Some people will want to negotiate their financing and lease deal over the phone. And traditionally, that's something that dealerships have never done before, right? If a year ago you called up a dealership and said, I want to negotiate a lease deal or finance deal, they would say, come on down to a dealership and we'll put a deal together for you. But these days, some consumers are just not comfortable in doing that. So the dealerships that are succeeding the most are the ones that are giving up control and really being flexible. Do you want to discuss your leasing, financing deal over text message or over a phone or over a Zoom call? Sure, we could do that. You'd rather come in instead? We could do that also. Your car is ready for pickup. Do you want to come pick it up? No, you don't feel comfortable picking up? We could drop it off at your house for you, so it's a touchless experience. Do you want to go for a physical test drive? Maybe you don't feel comfortable doing that at the dealership. Well, no problem. We'll bring the car to your house. You could test drive it, and then we'll take the car back. Maybe you don't feel comfortable with that either. So we could do a Zoom walkthrough or a video for you of the car. It's really, I think the path to success for businesses, I think now and in the foreseeable future, is really being very, very flexible, because I think the consumers will all have very different comfort levels with any kind of social interaction or anything COVID related or risky for the foreseeable future, and rightly so. People have different risk profiles personally, right? Some have a much higher risk if they get COVID. Some just have seen family and friends get very sick and they're just very scared and just want to don't want to risk it, right? And others don't want to get their friends and family sick by putting themselves at risk and putting their entire family at risk. And I think even though everyone's vaccinating now, and I think in 6 months we'll have a very high vaccination rates, I think these behaviors will continue a little bit out of habit, a little bit because the vaccines aren't perfect, they're not 100%, and a little bit because I think the rules and regulations aren't going to change. I think even if you're vaccinated, you're still going to be wearing a mask, right? Let's say you already have the vaccine right now. If you go into right now a supermarket without a mask, first of all, you got to make everyone uncomfortable, right? They don't know you're vaccinated. People are going to see you and get uncomfortable. But second of all, the supermarket's not going to let you do that. I don't think they're going to care that you're vaccinated. They're still going to have to wear masks. So I think those kind of things will keep driving consumer behaviors. They're going to be all over the map. And the biggest thing a business could do is really try to accommodate everyone to the best of their ability. Whew, that was a lot of talking. Next thing, and so this one will be more towards the SEO folks. So the other big trend we saw in 2020 and that has continued to 2021 is establishing your home as a center for well-being. So what does that mean? People are spending a lot more time at home, a lot more probably than ever. A lot of workplaces are still closed, including our office. So the home has become much more important than it has before. And that applies to really everything related to home. So what have been the big winners? Any kind of to your house delivery services, right? They've existed before. You could get like meal prep delivered and wine delivered and everything. But that's become bigger than ever. Really, the home has become the center of everything we do. So the big winners are really anything at home related. We talked about before at home exercising, hobbies. Cooking has been very big. People are now, who have never cooked before, right, started cooking. Dining has become a completely different experience. Even if you do dining, most people are ordering to their house and still eating it at home. So it's really the home is the center of everything now. And I think that has a big effect on SEO because search behaviors are now all centered around the home. So it's all about how do I learn how to garden, right? How to paint my house, this says how to plant, but also how to paint, right? Home renovation has become very, very big as people are both spending time at home and realizing they need to fix up their home. So these are all, I think, big topic ideas for 2021 and beyond. And as this points out, it's not only things about the home, it's things that create an emotional benefit centered around your house. The other big thing that we saw, and interestingly enough, I've been participating in a lot of SEO events and I've been following a lot of SEO trends. For whatever reason, this one doesn't get highlighted too often. And I've seen it happening over the last almost decade, and I've pointed it out over the last couple of years in a couple of SEO presentations. But the big trend, especially this says global, but the data is very US skewed. The big trend has been from searching for the cheapest to searching for the best. I think that is a very, very big point for SEO and for people creating SEO content. And you could see, look at the data here. This is a search trend for items with the word best versus the word cheap. And it's one of those things that you don't really realize, but that's how search behavior has really evolved. For a long time, people would really just cheapest computer, right? I remember there was a presentation that one of the Dell marketing guys gave on PPC that they were doing, and they were actually bidding on and getting a lot of activity from things like cheapest computer, and that was this is a long time ago, but that was a big value proposition that we are the cheapest direct-to-consumer computer and all of that. That's not how people search anymore. Literally, if you want a lamp, people search best lamp or best rug. best toothbrush, best keyboard. And that goes, there's two major trends that are driving that. Number one, people don't really want shitty items, as silly as that sounds. They don't want something that's the cheapest and really bad and will be a bad product that they'll throw away. The other thing is people more and more so want curated lists. And this is actually a very big point for SEO. So the reason people are searching for best lamp, best rug is they might not necessarily be looking for a single best rug. Like this is the best rug in America, right? They're not. They know they're not gonna get that. They're more so searching for curated lists. So more and more so, if someone wants to buy, let's say, a lamp, and they search best lamp, they actually want to see a list of these are the best lamps. Similar for every other category. If someone what can we think about? Someone wants to search. Someone wants to buy a bicycle, like a mountain bike to go biking. Let's say that's you. You wanna buy a mountain bike. You want to become an avid mountain biker. Spend some time outside. What would you search? Would you search cheapest mountain bike? Maybe, but probably not. The default search has really become best mountain bike or mountain bike lists, right? Or mountain bike reviews is a big one. But generally speaking, if you were new on the new on the market for a mountain bike, what you really want to find is a list of the best mountain bikes at your specific price point. So again, that's a very, very big trend. I think that'll continue into 2021 and indefinitely. I think more and more so consumer want list of curated items based on the item they're searching for. So I think that's a big potential win for SEO content writers. The other big one is interest in subscription boxes. So I talked about that a little bit a slide or two back, but more and more so people are interested in every single kind of subscription box, right? And that I felt like it was niche before where there was like 20 wine subscription boxes, but it's become even more niche. For example, there's now a company that does wine boxes that are, they will ship you sugar-free, sulfite-free wine. So it's become more and more niche. And the businesses are doing really, really well, right? And a lot of these businesses aren't even producing the content themselves. A lot of the new successful subscription boxes are repurposing products. So for my example, the company that does the sugar-free, sulfite-free wine, they actually source it from different wineries, put it in a box, and ship it with their branding on top, right? So that's become really, really big, and consumers, as they continue to spend more and more time at home, and aren't going out to stores and feeling and touching stuff, they more and more want these kind of curated subscription box services, and that's what they're searching for. That one's more for the business owners more than the SEO content writers, but I think it's a very big trend, and you see this increase here towards the end of 2020 into 2021. I think this will spike even higher going into 21 and as we wrap up the year and go into 2022. And I think more and more so these subscription box services are going to be more and more so just curated products versus something that company is producing. All right. So a little bit more on the last couple of slides and really wrapping it all together in a single slide for you guys. The big takeaway for businesses, and this applies for content and SEO as well, is the consumer really wants all of their experiences curated now. You could see that literally based on the search volume, people are just searching for curated and for now at least virtual experiences. So that one for me has been very interesting because a lot of the businesses we work with and consult for have come to Smart Sites and to me personally and really have said, do you think this whole virtual experience is here to stay? Do I need to adapt my business to be virtual? Or is this going to go away as soon as everyone does a vaccine? And unfortunately, that's not something I have a clear answer for. But for the time being, virtual is still very big. Virtual experiences of any kind. If you think about it, things like going to a zoo, museum, concert, even traveling, things people can do now, they really are searching for. This is search interest. And this is starting, look at this. This is January, this is February. Look at the jump. And this is going into December. This is search volume on YouTube for virtual tours. So you could see it has decreased a little bit over the peak, but I think it will stay at this level. I think virtual experiences are still going to be very powerful. Like I've mentioned before, I think a lot of consumers might not be comfortable going to a concert for a little while, or might not be comfortable sitting on an airplane for a little while to travel somewhere. And I think a lot of businesses could really integrate the virtual experiences into their operations. And similarly, the SEOs of the world could really be integrating this into a strategy as well, knowing that people are searching for virtual experiences both on Google and on YouTube. A couple of just small business ideas to think about. Even the restaurants we spoke about earlier in the session that I know are struggling across the board could start doing virtual cooking episodes or experiences, right? They could publish on their website and new virtual, they could like stream it live, right? Whenever they're preparing food, maybe once a week, twice a week, do like a virtual experience where people can actually watch them prepare food, right? Not only is it a way to engage consumers, but once you actually host the live event, you put the video up on your website, you put the ingredients you use on your website, and really create content around that. And it's content that people are still actively searching for. So I think as to wrap this up, and I think this wraps it up very well. In 2021, the search is on for new safe experiences that can elevate your everyday routines. So for businesses, that's something to think about. How can you integrate that into your operations while at the same time being accommodating to really any way a consumer is looking to interact with your business. And then for the SEO gurus out there that are creating content, this is what people are looking for. People are looking for curated lists, virtual experiences. They're looking for things around safety. They wanna feel safe and good about any kind of interaction or product they're purchasing. Right? It's the small things from that you could add in to really make them feel that way. From a business standpoint, if you're shipping something to them, right, put a little note saying that, outlining maybe the COVID safety procedures that took place before this item was shipped out. From the SEO's perspective, it's creating content that people are looking for, right? And people are looking for safety. They're looking for the curated lists, recommendations. They're looking for things that they could do at home, as home continues to be the focus point around everything that we do. And they're really looking for different ways to interact with businesses. If you're that car dealership that's now allowing people to interact with you over cell phone, over text, virtually in all different ways, you're doing Zoom tours of cars, put that on your website, create a content page around explaining it. And then when someone searches, is it safe to visit a car dealership, or can a dealership give me a Zoom tour of a car, your page is actually going to come up. So I think going to 2021, I think that's really the play. And I'll leave everyone with a quote from Peter Drucker. For those that don't know him, he's one of the leading business management, business consulting gurus. And his quote is, "The greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, it is to act with yesterday's logic." And I think that goes back to my point that businesses really have to be very agile these days and really adapt. And those that don't will be the ones that fail. Some industries harder to adapt than others, right? If you're a travel agent for cruise liners, you really have to think outside the box to adapt. But in 9 out of 10 cases, even industries that were hit fairly hard by COVID, There's a lot of ways to adapt and to move forward and really pivot your business, pivot your marketing, and really use this as an opportunity to grow where there's versus seeing it as a challenge that'll put you out of business. And that's all I have. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure, for sure. Even if you think about, so I'm very digital savvy, I would say. Anything new on the digital side, I'm the first to order, right? I pre-ordered every single virtual reality device. I'm literally on the both I try to be for my business sakes and just me personally. I'm the cutting edge of all technology that I could possibly be on the cutting edge for. And pre-pandemic, I downloaded Instacart. So Instacart is ordering groceries to your house. I had the app. I maybe used it once in my life. I mostly I think to test it. Now I use it all the time, right? I'm willing to pay the little bit to avoid going to the supermarket. A, because of COVID, although not so much anymore, but B, to save myself time. But through COVID now, even when we're all vaccinated, let's say COVID completely disappears by the end of the summer, I'm still going to be using it and using it a lot, right? I think I'm going to be going to supermarkets a lot less. So there's a lot of behaviors that are here to stay. And I think you're right. I think e-commerce will dip down a little bit. I think there's still a lot of consumers that really want to go in and touch a product, especially in like clothing, fashion, retail. There's a lot of categories that kind of lend themselves to the in-person experience, even car dealerships, right? People are buying virtually, but there's still people that want to go there and feel the car. They want to slam the door in the car and hear the noise of it closing. So I think ultimately it'll change a little bit, but you're right. A lot of people who have never been comfortable with this, any of this online stuff, are now know how to do it, and I think will continue to do it. So a lot of these behaviors, I think, are here to stay. Yes, yes, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah, so as an agency, that's exactly what we do. We work with the small businesses to really bring them to the 21st century in terms of creating them the website, updating their website, it's having them to do SEM, SEO, social media. Literally, our job is to grow their business to their digital presence. So that's for sure has been a trend for a long time. We actually got dinged a good amount with COVID because as is usually the case, anytime anyone panics, marketing is the first thing to be cut, right? When it hit, like literally, well, aside from the obvious reasons, but some businesses couldn't even be open. We work a lot in the auto space. We work with every single automotive brand, for example. In the New York City metro area, they couldn't sell cars. It wasn't allowed, right? So obviously, they're not going to be doing marketing. But aside from those kind of things, that's the reason we've kept growing the company. We did not lay anyone off in COVID. We took a big financial hit to do so. We actually kept hiring throughout COVID, and it's exactly those reasons. I think the future is if there's any silver lining in COVID, is that digital has proven to be more and more important, and the value of it has been shown more than before. But to your point, we're actually we're a little bit different from the example you gave in sense of the people we work with and the small businesses, the roofers, the plumbers that we work with and help are usually the ones that are tech savvy enough to come to us for help, right? We don't do any like cold calling or cold business. People reach out to us. So we're still missing out on all the tons of businesses that really could use help and like really a digital presence could triple their revenue, but they just don't know it, so they don't even look for it. I'll give you a really good example. So we were lucky enough to spend the summer. The office is closed, so we spent the summer at a shore house. I spent with my family, with my kids. And down there's a butcher, so it's a little bit more rural. So there's still like in this area, I think where I live full time, you don't have that, but it's like a butcher. You go and you get like slabs of meat, right? Like the guy like chops you a piece of meat. Has no digital presence whatsoever. It was just a butcher. People would line up in the morning, get fresh meat. When COVID hit, he wasn't allowed to be open. People weren't allowed to be inside because his store is really, really tiny. And I think it was like that for a long time. I think only recently he was allowed to reopen. But he was actually smart enough to pivot, and he first started doing deliveries, meat deliveries in the local towns. And then I think after a little bit, he realized the power of that. I think he started a website, started taking online orders nationwide. He ships it now in a container with ice. He like literally ships meat across the U.S. His sales are up 10x. Like literally, it was a guy who's never had a website, never needed anything digital. I think he was second or third generation. That's how they've always done it. And to your point, what crazy value, right? He did it himself, but imagine like someone comes in and says, let's bring your business to a digital space. Let's ship your meat in boxes with ice across the US. Really, the 10x the revenue. So for sure, I think there's going to be so many opportunities like that, and so much value that someone could bring, really taking these small businesses and optimizing their digital presence. Yeah. For sure. For sure, and it's funny. It's one of those things for if been around long enough in the digital space. When Jeff Bezos started Amazon, a lot of people were very reluctant to buy books online. They felt that books was something that you had to go into a bookstore and actually flip through a couple pages to be able to buy it. And it wasn't in the initial release, but I think it was rolled out fairly quickly after. Amazon allowed you to view the first couple of pages of the book, right, before buying it. And people were still like, I remember everyone was like, no one's going to be buying books online. This is ridiculous. This is an in-person experience. These days, a lot more people buy books online than in person, right? So I think in time, consumer habits will definitely catch up to it. I also remember the CEO of Zappos, who actually passed away fairly recently, but he was also very big on shoe purchases becoming completely virtual experience, and this was pre-COVID. They pioneered a lot of really cool things on the website where they would actually have a person put the shoe on and they would do like a 3D video around that person, and they did actually really well, and Amazon actually wound up buying them. But all these experiences that people are very reluctant to do virtually, I think will become more and more common. I think COVID sped up a lot of that tremendously, but I think over time it's hard to visualize it now. I mean, when and I've heard the CEO of Zappos speak a couple times. He was so passionate about. He's like, this will revolutionize the shoe business. Everyone will buy shoes online. And again, I'm very like tech savvy and everything. I'm like, I'm not buying shoes online. I was like, bullshit. No one's gonna be buying their shoes online. You know how it's gonna fit. And now I don't have problems doing that now. I don't remember the last time I was in a shoe store. So I think there's a lot of really big macro trends that are going to be happening, and I think they're going to happen really quick, like quicker than people realize. I think we're going to wake up and then all furniture stores don't exist and all furniture is being bought online, right? I think it's going to be one of those. And I think for people who are in that business and people like us who invest and help market businesses, we really have to be on all these trends and really be willing to be agile and move really quick. Thank you. Thank you.